Hello to the forest explorers out there. I'm Doug. I'm the branch manager. Welcome to episode number 28. I'm in a forest reserve a couple of kilometers west of Qualicum Beach, BC on Vancouver Island. Well, I want to just quickly show you a quick sort of a partial perimeter view. A portion of the forest that's just around me, because the topic I'm going to talk about is right behind me, and that forest has regenerated over a number of years, upwards of 80 years. Now, there's reasons I can tell that is because what I'm going to talk about is this stump behind me, which is probably cut down 90 years ago. Logging in British Columbia started way back in about 120 years ago. That's a long time. But back then, things were different. Standards were different. Utilization standards were different. And trees had to be felled a certain way to get them out of the woods and to the mill. So I'm showing you this stump behind me. It's a Douglas fir, probably 6 feet in diameter, very, very large, original tree in this forest. Well grown over now with a lot of moss and brush. Hard to find if you don't look for them. But what is it that I see? So up close, that's a notch, and that's a notch that's made by a faller. Why would the faller make a notch up there, which is probably, back then, 80, 90 years ago, probably 7 to 8 feet from the forest floor. So he'd have to jump up 8 feet, jump up or crawl up 8 feet, and they put a board into the notch called the springboard, and they would climb up onto the board with their power saw or crosscut saw, whatever was applicable in those days, and they would start their cut. Bit of a long, drawn out, rigorous situation, but there's one cut here, a notch, and there's another notch on the other side about 180 degrees. Thus, that would align with one side would be an undercut, which is what you first put in a tree to cut it down, and then a back cut on the other side, but with a board, and that was a springboard. When you go into the forest, take a look and see if you can see stumps like this with a notch in them. But why did they do that? Well, they wanted to cut above the bottom part of the tree where the tree became straight. So this is the butt portion here that I'm pointing to. Butt portion here. But down below, if you can see, that's the bell portion. So the tree, every tree has a bell portion on the bottom, which is enough to be a bit of a problem in those days. What they had to do back then, the loggers had to do, was cut above the bell portion so there was no waste. So they wanted the log cut higher, the straight portion of the tree, which went right to the top itself. They would load that on a haul truck or a logging truck, take it to the mill, and cut it straight. Now, if that bell was on there and it was loaded and taken to the mill, it comes out as waste, and they don't really want waste, or you'd have to trim it at the mill, and that's more work, more time. So that's the reason. And you could do this back then, 80, 90, 100, 120 years ago. And luckily, they had the means, the wherewithal, and this probably was something that somebody dreamed up, and very simple operation, but in order to get up to the heights you need to eliminate the bell portion and eliminate waste all the way from here in the forest to the mill, that's what you had to do. So efficiency was of the utmost, but the height of the stump, of course, now is close utilization right down at ground level to our standards now. When you're looking around the forest, as I say, take a look, keep your eyes open. You see an old stump like this next to a trail or something, see if you can find a notch in there. You might have to clean off some of the bark or moss, and that's a notch that was made by a faller and put a springboard in. And try to think of how hard that was to get up there. So with that in mind, folks, I'm Doug, I'm the branch manager, and this episode is coming from just west of Qualicum Beach, BC. But I want to remind you, before I sign off, just to keep it real and keep it green.